Welcome to Living Vividly, the podcast where health, wellness, and curiosity collide. I'm Jackie, the founder of Vivid Health and Wellness, your guide on this journey to living your happiest and healthiest life. I'll be joined by some amazing co-hosts who bring their expertise and energy to every conversation. First up, we've got Daphne, our unconventional yet totally brilliant registered dietitian who's never afraid to shake up your approach to food. Then there's Dr. Mary Beth Moss, a physical therapist with a special passion for helping dancers move better and live better, no matter what stage of life they're in. And of course, we can't forget our trusty producer, Dustin, who helps keep everything running smoothly behind the scenes. We'll be having informative and engaging conversations with health and wellness pros, plus everyday people who've got incredible stories of their own health journeys. Whether you're looking to fuel your body better, move with ease, or just learn how to thrive in this crazy world, we're here to help you do it, all while living vividly. So let's dive in.
All right. Jackie, how you doing?
Super good. First episode.
It's just you and I. Mary Beth can't be here today.
Yes.
But we'll catch up with her another time.
Yeah, she'll be here most of the time.
Yeah,
most of the time. But today it's just me and Daphne. Give them a little list here. I'm super ADD, so we got to stay on task.
So let's talk about how we met. It was kind of an unusual, extended family situation.
My aunt is married to your husband's brother.
Yes. I think it's the wife is my husband's brother's wife is
my aunt.
No, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I knew that.
Like step aunt.
Okay.
But
didn't realize the whole connection.
Yeah. Whenever I had Vivid, we were in an infusion clinic. She said, "You need to meet my sister-in-law, Daphne." And so I think I invited you to meet one day.
Yeah. I think we had coffee and
fast friends.
Just kind of.
Are you obsessed with health and wellness?
I am.
Yeah, it's like our favorite thing to talk about.
I know. And so oddly enough, my other bestie, Jackie, not you, but my other Jackie, is also crazy about health and wellness. So I've got two Jackies that are crazy about the health and wellness.
Well, you're my
situation.
only Daphne.
That's usually the case.
Well, it's my favorite thing to talk about. And it's so fitting that we're doing this. We just recently started the health revolution.
Right.
Which is really fun.
Right. That was a situation where we were kind of not real sure what was going to happen. And I do believe that a revolution was started.
I think whenever we were in the planning stages, it was a daydream. Like, let's just get in front of a bunch of people and talk about our favorite thing to talk about.
Right.
And we'll be lucky if 20 to 30 people show up.
Yeah.
And I think between the two events that we had, over 100 people. It was about 110 tickets sold.
Yeah. So a revolution was started. And this is going to be the continuation.
Absolutely. So we're going to continue doing those live panel discussions. But in the meantime, we got to fill the gaps. There's too many things to talk about.
Yes,
You can't
so much
fit
to talk
it in.
about.
Hey, everybody. How y'all doing?
Dustin's joining us.
Hey. So what's this health revolution thing?
So I think the health revolution was something that we talked about, just wanting to share some knowledge and some kind of experience and get a lot of people on board and start to maybe build a community is kind of what I think we were initially aiming for. And so it ended up being a panel of 3 people all talking about their expertise and their part of the health revolution, because I think where it started from was that we were talking about how our health care system is kind of unraveling. Mm-hmm. And so you have these outliers of people that are in it for the right reasons, but not necessarily fitting in the mold of what our current healthcare system looks like. And so that's kind of how the people were chosen.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Well, the theme was taking control of your own health. And it was really just like an introduction to this health revolution that we're starting. Back up just a second. Like whenever we had first started talking about this, we were, I think, at Rev having coffee. And we're just kind of talking about how this is our favorite thing to discuss. We like to deep dive into this. And there really isn't a community where people can come together to do that with other fellow enthusiasts and different health professionals that really are into this. So yeah, we decided to put a group together.
Yeah. And just kind of see what happens and see how big that community is.
It
turns out
bigger.
It's a lot bigger than I thought.
Yeah. I think that it's a trend right now. Not a trend like it's trendy, but people are waking up to the fact that we are in control of our own health, or we should be in control of our own health.
Things are trending towards people knowing more.
Yeah, like this.
I think just kind of taking control out of your doctor's hands, because the healthcare system is not set up for the doctor to be the person that is in control of your health. And so with that being said, if the doctor's not in control, someone has to be driving the bus. Mm-hmm. And so you have to be in control of what's happening with your own healthcare. And so that's kind of where the conversation started. And then it kind of spiraled into a couple of different things. So I think we're on a good path. You know, we had a really great turnout and great conversation the first time. Our next one will be in January, and that one's going to be great too. I'm sure of it. But yeah, this is kind of to fill in the gaps of those Health Revolution events.
Yeah, because we're really limited we're going to do every other month-ish, and that's really only 5 or 6 next year. And there's more than 5 or 6 topics that we want to deep dive into. So this is going to be a good way to fill in the gaps.
Which is why the podcast, right?
Which is why the podcast started. It actually, I think, a question, which we've kind of talked about doing a podcast, but there was a question at the Health Revolution event that really made me decide, like, we have to deep dive into this.
What was that question? Do you remember?
Actually, it was how to read a medical article or the journals. Right. And so, yeah, we're going to have an episode on that, like teach people how to read these studies and decipher what's, there's so many ins and outs about who funded the study. And
you have to have the education, at least a little bit of education going into it to really be able to get the information out of it that you need.
I think you have to have a little bit of education about everything. I mean, we've really given away so much power and autonomy to the system. Really, it was us all along. If you just know enough, you can make informed decisions to stay healthy, and your doctor isn't in charge of your health. Your doctor doesn't know your body better than you, even though they have a medical degree and they might know your anatomy and physiology. Yeah. They don't know if you know your little spidey senses, like something's not right. So really teaching people how to stand up, advocate for themselves, be informed patients and people. I think we're going to see some really good stuff come out of this.
So what got you into health and wellness?
A business decision.
Okay.
3 years ago, I opened Vivid Infusion and Wellness. We were a vitamin infusion clinic, and it was truly just a business decision. Whenever we first opened, there was an opportunity, and my husband and I like starting businesses. So we opened it, and quickly I became more involved in the day-to-day than I had originally anticipated. I thought I was just going to be like the marketing, accounting, like behind the scenes, doing the QuickBooks. And then I turned out to be there every day, and I fell in love with this world. Just seeing people make good changes in their lifestyles, and I just fell in love with it. And I quickly realized that this was what I was supposed to be doing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. So here we are.
So why Living Vividly? Why do you call it Living Vividly?
Well, I think it's a play on vivid.
Right.
This past summer, we were faced with some regulatory challenges, and we decided to just pivot the focus of the business. And instead of doing invasive infusions, we are just really going to deep dive into health education and helping empower people to take control of their own health. And this is just a play on that, Living Vividly. So I think another big idea about health, people really focus on the diet and the nutrition and the working out, and they think that's all that there is to health.
Right.
When really health is so multidimensional. There's so many other aspects that are important. You can run and you can eat all the broccoli you want, but if your mental health, your emotional, your occupational, your relationships suck,
you're not sleeping well, I always go back to sleep. Yeah. Because it's such an important factor, and I struggle with it, honestly. I mean, that's why I always go back to sleep, because I know that it's such an important factor in all aspects of health. But yeah, I mean, it's so multidimensional as far as what we would consider health and wellness. There's so much involved.
And I think that's really going to be a big theme with what we're going to be talking about. Yeah. We're going to probably start with some physicians and focus on some of those foundational diet and whatnot, but I would really like to dig deep into occupational wellness.
Daphne, you're a dietitian, but you say you always go back to sleep. That's not dietitian stuff.
Right. But if you're tired, if you're not sleeping well, so I think about sleep as quality of sleep, meaning, are you getting into deep sleep? Are you getting, do you have do you snore a lot? So quality is important, and quantity is the thing that you have a little more control over. So quantity of sleep is how much time are you actually allowing yourself to sleep? If you are not well slept,
I think the word right there is rested. Yeah.
If you're not well rested,
but well slept sounds great.
Like
that feels better. If you are not well rested, your choices in food change. So you're more likely to gravitate towards foods that are higher in sugar, or foods that are high or caffeine, things that have caffeine, so coffee and that sort of thing, and less likely to be able to make appropriate choices food-wise. And then also you're not going to want to move. I mean, sleep really trickles into every aspect of just health and wellness.
I could talk about sleep forever. I love like the idea of it and all the different cycles and all that, and how to know if you're getting enough. Or the one thing I know it's not my podcast, but the one thing I know is if you wake up from a dream, you should get up. Like if you wake up around the time you're supposed to wake up and you're out of a dream, that's your last stage of sleep. It's your lightest stage of sleep. Because if you go back to bed for like 30 more minutes,
you're going to get into a deep
sleep. Just get into a deep sleep and you'll be groggy the entire day.
That happened to me this morning, actually. My alarm went off and I accidentally went back to sleep and I overslept for an hour. And it was a very stressful morning. So the fact that we're even here and I'm in a good mood is a miracle because it was touch and go. It was touch and go.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we should get someone on here that knows all about sleep and deep dive into that.
That would be really cool.
Yeah. We're going to have some functional psychiatrists or psychiatric nurse practitioners.
Right.
What's that mean? Functional?
What is functional versus traditional?
So traditional is just kind of our conventional mainstream healthcare. Functional is really whenever you're looking more at, the way that I see it, is looking more at the root cause of what is contributing to the healthcare problem or what is contributing to the issue. So in this case, it's what is contributing to the mental health dysfunction or mental health breakdown. And so when you can treat the issue, the root cause is how it's always referred to. When you treat that and look at it from that perspective, rather than just medicating the symptom, then you are more likely to have a longer term, better outcome.
And it's kind of funny. A lot of those root causes are so simple a lot of the times. And then, okay, so we have the traditional, we have the functional, integrative. That's like a mix.
Integrative, yeah. In my mind, integrative is where you've got multiple practitioners from different backgrounds coming together for the good of the person. So it's integrated practitioners working together.
Health is so bio-individual. Not every single person is going to respond to one treatment or one diet style. It's really, it's become very cookie cutter and just a conveyor belt. And I think that's kind of what's dismantling right now. People are realizing that it's very individual and
what affects one person is not going to necessarily be the best way to approach another person. And that goes back to our genetics, our background, our culture, our gut health. I mean, there's so many factors. From the food perspective, the way that the foods that you ate when you were a child are going to vastly influence the foods that you want to eat as an adult. And we see that over and over. We're in a culture here in South Louisiana where there are very specific cultural foods. And so whenever we try and shift that a little bit, there's a little bit of a bucking of the change. People don't necessarily want to change that. But so there are so many things that affect how you function as a human. A cookie cutter approach is not, it's going to work for a little while, but then it doesn't really solve the problem or really address the issue.
I think the cuckoo doctors knew for a long time. I think that there's been people shouting on the rooftops about this for a long time, but it wasn't allowed to be discussed almost.
Well, and I would say in my world, it first kind of started coming to fruition whenever we started really being able to decipher genetics and really looking at the genetic profile of people. And, there have been lots of studies. I don't study genetics. I tried and it's really, really, there's a lot to it. But whenever you look at the genetic profile of twins, identical twins, how a lot of their genetics are the same, but the environment that they are raised in can affect the outcome of their health. I mean, so I think that when the genome started to become unraveled and we started looking at that, that's, I think, whenever there was really a big pivot to like, oh wait, we're not all the same. We are all very, very, very different.
I actually know a genomic scientist now that were talking about it. So we might need to get him on the podcast.
Because since my mom's a twin, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, I wonder if like one's allergic to something and not the other because they grew up always playing outside as opposed to the other one or something.
And another factor that would factor into that would be like if one of them was more sick as a child and had more antibiotics, or even through adult health too, but really kind of setting that foundation in childhood.
We're noticing that like my children's generation is sicker than any other generation. And then my generation before that was sicker. It's like 4 generations. You know, our grandparents started eating processed food. And so it's slowly trickled down and caused this metabolic dysfunction that we're seeing earlier and earlier. My daughter has an autoimmune disease that we found out when she was 5, and that was unheard of before. So I think that is also what's making people wake up to this and start asking questions that they weren't asking before.
So we're seeing that same thing happen in countries where there was no processed food, and now processed food is starting to trickle in. So you see the changes in the health of the country as a whole whenever the food system changes, obviously. But I think whenever children start getting sick, then you have mamas that want answers. And the cookie cutter approach does not give answers to the mama that really wants answers to help their child.
Well, I think I was the most annoying patient mother that any of the doctors had come across because I was relentless. And I refused to accept the Band-Aid approaches. And it took me really pushing to find out even about her diagnosis. And then the treatment after was just not getting us anywhere. Luckily, we got to work with you. I know you don't normally work with kids, but you helped me a lot. So she's significantly better 2 years later, just really focusing on her gut health, the food that she's eating, the environment.
So was she allergic to stuff, or?
She has celiac disease. So she has an autoimmune disease. It's a response to gluten, and it triggers the autoimmune.
So actually celiac? Gotcha.
Actually celiac.
Because some people are like, I'm allergic to gluten. Like I'm allergic to gluten, but I don't have celiac, so I don't know what.
Her gut lining was basically getting attacked by her body, and it destroys the little, is it cilia or villi?
Villi.
I get those two.
Villi and microvilli.
It's supposed to look like a shag carpet. It's these little villi, and
finger-like projections that also have little finger-like projections off of them.
It looks like a shag carpet inside of your intestines, and that's what helps you absorb nutrients in your food. And whenever you're exposed to gluten, your body attacks those and flattens them down. So the inside of her intestines just looked like a nice smooth surface, and she wasn't absorbing any nutrients.
So you lose a lot of surface area for your ability to absorb nutrients when you go from being multiple finger-like projections to just being completely flat.
Nothing.
And inflamed.
So right around the same time we found out that she had celiac, I also did the micronutrient test on her, and she was deficient in everything. And that can lead to more problems down the road. It's not just, oh, I have celiac. It's like this can lead to thyroid issues. It can lead to certain cancers. It can lead to so much big stuff if left untreated. And I think probably a lot of people don't know that they have it.
Well, I was going to say that you being the mama bear that you are basically saved her life, you know, I mean, because there are plenty of people, and this is where I think when it happens in children, there's a much bigger red flag that says, hey, what is happening here? Whenever it's happening in an adult, we feel like there's so many other things that could be contributing to it. But when it's happening in a child, there's a much more of a question as to how did this happen? And because it's happening to children, whether it's autoimmune disease or just being ill, I have some sisters that I'm working with, and I won't give the whole details, but they suddenly, one of them 2 years ago started with just severe headaches, and the headache was sudden onset, but constant all the time. And it would change in severity, but it never went away. And then 2 years later, the older sister of that child just came to me, gut issues, passing out, just fainting. And nobody knows what's happening. Nobody can figure it out. But that mama is not going to stop. I know her. She's not going to stop until she figures out some answers. And so when these things are happening to children and we have to dig deeper and we have to figure out what's going on, it presents a different picture than whenever it's an adult.
Whenever she was having her symptoms, she was in excruciating pain, crying. And I know this isn't like what we were planning on talking about the whole time, but I was told that she was constipated, that she probably had a nervous stomach, and she might just be anxious, and it just getting blown off. How many people would just take that at face value and trust that, the doctor's probably right about that. And it's unacceptable. Like we really, well, we'll get into that, but I'm glad that we were able to do that. And it's really, she's not the only one. Kids are getting sick. And we have to find out why, and we have to stop it because the next generation is just going to get worse if we don't. So that's kind of our mission.
What was the timing like whenever she started getting sick and whenever you opened Vivid? Like how much of an impact did her illness have with you?
We had been open almost a year when we got her diagnosis. So she started feeling the symptoms and presenting the symptoms about 6 months after we opened. And Vivid 100% is the reason why she is okay today, because I was equipped with the knowledge. I was around the right people. Had I not had any background on health and wellness, I would have just been probably still undiagnosed. So it was kind of a miracle. I feel like the universe put me where I needed to be. And that also is the thing that helped me fall deeper in love with health, because just you can do so much good. We can make so many positive changes with this, just really deep diving into functional nutrition and functional everything. I think that's where.
So nutrition plays such a big role, but everything else needs to be working too for nutrition to do its part. So like if your gut health isn't intact, then you can put all the good food you want in your system. If your body can't absorb it, then you're still not any better than you were before.
And another huge aspect of gut health is your mental health. Like how many of us are depressed and anxious?
Absolutely.
And have you done a gut study? Have you looked at your GI map?
Yeah. There are so many specific bugs that you can come across in a GI map that will contribute to anxiety. And so you can identify those and that can be treated. It's not a super easy process, but it's very doable. It's possible.
And more sustainable than just throwing Prozac at somebody forever.
Right.
Okay, where do I need to go to get one of these tests?
Daphne.
Depends on which one you want, but GI map we can do.
I don't know what most of them are. What's the GI map? How's that work?
So the GI map is a stool test that evaluates your GI function. So it looks at what's called dysbiosis, which is the imbalance of bacteria and microbes in your digestive system. And it looks at if you have any kind of infections, which are when someone's coming to me, that's not typical that they have an infection of like worms or parasites or something like that. Although I've come across it a couple of times, but it also gives us a better picture of if you have the digestive enzymes that your body needs to produce and break down food, what the integrity of your immune system and your digestive tract is. And so it paints a big broad picture of what's happening in your digestive system, so we can extrapolate from that which direction you need to go to be able to determine whatever the issue is, try and solve the issue.
So y'all are able to help figure it out and then game plan where to go from there. That's cool.
Yeah. So usually the GI map, the game plan is going to be obviously a food protocol, and then sometimes a supplement protocol to accompany the food.
That's cool.
The GI map is incredible. It's a great test. And that also saved my life, because whenever I did the GI map for funsies, honestly, I just wanted to know, I'm curious and I'll test. If there's a test, I'll sign me up. But I took the test and I had some crazy markers on it. And I actually at 35 had a 3-centimeter colon polyp.
Really?
Yeah.
I think you did tell me that.
Yeah. And got that taken out, and that was not good.
So folks, go get your tests.
Yes. And I think that they just lowered the age to 40
for colonoscopy.
For colonoscopies. I think it was 45.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Or maybe it's 45. They had just lowered it.
It was 50 and now it's 45.
Okay, so I was 35.
Yeah.
And I had a colon cancer in my colon, and I think we're seeing increased rates of that too.
Yeah.
So all these things are indicative. Like that started with my diet and some stress, and I'm sure some other things. Right. But we're seeing these rates increase in sicknesses and cancers, and it's really, that's what's waking people up. Like, this is not normal.
Yeah. I think also I'm getting older. So, I'm going to be 50 next year. So in my generation, amongst my friends, there are people that are getting sick. Like they've had some pretty things that you think, oh, that's only for the old people. Well, now we're kind of becoming those old people, Yeah. And so people are getting sick, and alarmed and wanting to make changes and adjust something in their lifestyle.
Yeah. I know too many people right now with active cancer, just unacceptable.
Right.
So yeah, we're going to hopefully do some good, get people to make some small changes. And
I would say that my philosophy in life, because this is something that I heard as a teenager, this phrase, and I've just adopted to all parts of life. And that is, inch by inch, life's a cinch. Yard by yard, life is hard. And so I take that approach when I'm working with people, like, let's just do the smallest thing that you feel that you're capable of doing. And then we're going to build on that. So you're not going to get a tremendous amount of change in 1 month, but you're going to get something. You're going to get some momentum, and you're going to get some courage and some confidence to be able to make bigger changes. And I think that anytime that you're trying to change is hard. Even with the best of intentions and all the resources, change is hard. So anything that you can do that gives you that momentum to keep going is profound in being able to keep the ball rolling in this wellness evolution. Because what you're trying to do right now is probably not the same thing that you're going to be trying to do in 6 months. So building on things, I think, makes it a very easy approach to create change and to be able to get that momentum going.
I agree with that. I think it's daunting because really, if you really look at it, there's 75,000 things that we need to do to better our health, and it's impossible. We get analysis paralysis. We just freak out, shut down, eat the cookie, whatever. It is what it is. And just creating systems, small steps, make little goals. Just this week, I'm going to focus on cutting seed oil or whatever it is. Work with your dietitian or your health coach and make those small, attainable goals. So you always feel like you're achieving something. And also something that is massively important, which is kind of why this health revolution is happening, is because community is pivotal. If you're doing that on an island by yourself, you're not going to make it. Like, unless you have the willpower of steel, if you don't have people around you, whether it's your spouse or your friends, and just a support
some kind
group.
Of support,
it's so important. Just an accountability buddy.
Yeah.
So.
Ooh, I've never heard that one. An accountability buddy. That's good.
It's my favorite term.
Is there anything universal that is easy that anybody can, like, if somebody's listening to this and he's like, I don't know if there's something simple I can do today to start?
I will tell you the most foundational thing from a nutrition perspective is just drink water. You would be flabbergasted to know the amount of people that don't want to drink water, or just don't drink. Like, I just don't get thirsty, so I don't drink. But I mean, I think that is like the most foundational thing, is to just hydrate yourself. So whether it's water or herbal tea, those are pretty much your best choices. But just to, if you wanted to do like a little spa water or something, but just hydrate yourself, because your cells are about 70 to 80% water. So if you're not watering yourself like you would water a plant, then your cells are going to struggle to be able to do the most basic functions that they do.
I think building on that too, our food system is not what it used to be. The soil's depleted. The produce doesn't have the same nutritional value than it did 100 years ago. And you could eat 50 oranges today and it would equal the amount of vitamin C that you could get 100 years ago. So I really like supplementing with a quality multivitamin, especially minerals, because also you can drink all the water in the world. If your mineral balance is, or your mineral levels are off balance, you're not going to even be able to use that water properly. So I love taking a multivitamin. I can tell the difference in my health when I take that, and an omega-3.
My supplements, they change sometimes, but I always have a multivitamin. I always have vitamin D. I always have a B complex and omega-3. That's probably the 4 that I have. Vitamin D, I don't take necessarily every single day. And then magnesium is the other one.
Yeah, magnesium and vitamin D are probably the most common vitamin deficiencies that we see.
Yeah.
And they lead to all the stuff.
Yeah. I mean, magnesium is literally used for hundreds of processes in the body.
The people that I've seen try, like, okay, I'm going to try to start drinking water, they hate it because they have to pee all the time. They're like, how are you not peeing all the time? And my thought, I never looked it up or anything. I'm like, it's because you never drank water before and your body doesn't know what to do with it.
Right.
Is that basically?
So that could be it. I mean, if they're used to drinking a bottle of water a day and now they're drinking 3 or 4 bottles of water a day, their body is trying to get rid of toxins. I mean, that's one of the ways that you eliminate toxins. So it's trying to flush things out of your system.
It's like, thanks for the help. Let's go.
Right. But you do, going back to minerals, you do need sodium and potassium in every single cell uses sodium and potassium to regulate the fluid that's going inside of your cell. So if you are depleted, if you're drinking water, a lot of water, and you're depleted in sodium, potassium as minerals, which is that's not common, but that water is just going to run through you. But also, if you just turn up a bottle of water and drink, 16 or 20 ounces of water at one time, then your body's may not be able to utilize all of that at one time. It might be better to kind of spread it out, like 4 ounces every 30 minutes or something like that. A big chugging water is going to make it harder for your body to fully utilize it.
Yeah, we're not camels.
Right.
We
right. We can't store it.
I think that does happen, though, for people that don't want to drink water, don't like drinking water. They're just like, let me just down it and get it over with. Yeah. But that's almost as pointless as, or that's almost the same as just drinking a cup of it instead of a whole half gallon right away.
Right. I mean,
that's cool.
You have to kind of approach it somewhat strategically. I mean, drinking water is not rocket science, I mean, it's not hard, but you can't just drink a bunch of water at one time and then think, okay, I've got that check.
I'm good for the week.
Yeah, I've got that done. I don't have to do that anymore. I mean, your body uses water and hydration all the time, so you have to give it to it all the time.
I'm a cold brew coffee junkie, and I really have to balance my water because there will be days where I will just drink coffee for the first 4 hours of the day and my headache starts kicking in. I get just like a little frazzled.
There's water in coffee.
Yeah.
If I drink cold brew like that, I'm literally vibrating. Like you can almost see it. It's visible that I'm like vibrating, and it's so uncomfortable for me.
I don't know. I'm a coffee junkie. I have a problem.
Yeah.
But you know what? I used to be on Adderall. I'm very ADD with my vitamin levels and my mineral levels, sound. Like I'm functioning pretty well.
Yeah.
Unmedicated for the last 3 years. I'm going to give myself the coffee.
That gives me the little I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just personally can't. My body does not handle coffee well at all.
I vibrate, but I like it. I think another way, if people don't like to drink water, is like you said, spa water, like putting some cucumbers, cut up some strawberries. You can just leave that in the fridge and it tastes like juice.
Yeah.
What about sparkling water?
I love a sparkling water.
Yeah.
I don't know
Daphne's
if it's hydrating you.
No, there's not a lot of controversy. So I do think that sparkling water will hydrate you.
Better than not
having water. Yeah. So there is a little bit of question, and I feel like I should know the answer to this, and I don't. But I do drink sparkling water. Like I drink one probably every day. Like
I probably drink like 3 or 4 a day.
So I don't do quite that much, but there's an element of the carbonation that can pull phosphorus out of your bones.
Ooh.
And so it's not. I think that it's something that you can use on a regular basis, but just kind of like, everybody hates whenever dietitians say moderation is key, but it's kind of one of those things that in moderation, it's not going to hurt you. But if that's all you're drinking,
the only water,
then maybe we should kind of rethink that.
But it's the carbonation you're saying, like not
right. It's the carbonation.
So like if you drink 3 Sprites a day, it's still better to drink 3
absolutely
sparkling waters a day.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you drink 3 Sprites a day, we've got a lot of things to talk about, I mean, it happens. There are plenty of people that do that, but it's the carbonation that's found in any drinks and not just the sparkling waters.
I've also noticed when I'm having like GI upset, it makes it worse.
Really?
Mm-hmm. The bubbles.
I think that can go either way because some people it feels helps. Better. Yeah. And some, I have heard people say that it makes it really uncomfortable. And so it can be potentially because there's gas in it that, can lead to bloating and discomfort if you have trapped gas that can't move, especially I think for people that have more, like a nauseous stomach, sour stomach is what it's often like that carbonation can make it feel better. But I have heard it go either way. If you have reflux, it can really affect reflux too.
So my esophagus, if it eats something it's allergic to, makes it hard to swallow food.
Yeah.
And food can get stuck.
Yeah.
And it's hard to swallow. And so I got into drinking sparkling water because it would help like bubble it down.
Okay.
But then I'd get acid reflux. So it's a whole like treat one thing for the other, but there was no.
So you would be a good person. Have you ever done it? Have you ever done Whole30?
I did. That's when I did Whole30 because I was allergic to all this stuff.
Yeah. So that would be, and the way that I would treat it is to do a food sensitivity test because the
is that different than an allergy test?
Yeah, it's a little bit different because a food sensitivity test. So this is how I describe it. And I'm sure that an immunologist would not like this, but this is how I always describe it because it makes sense to me and it can make sense to other people. I think of the immune system as being like layers of the armed forces. So if something gets introduced to your body that is causing an immune response, the first thing that's going to come out is going to be that first layer of immune response. So like in our armed forces, it would be the National Guard. Something goes wrong, the National Guard comes out. If they can tame it down, everything's fine and nobody really knows about it. If they can't tame it down, then it escalates to the next level of immune response. I can't remember all the layers. I know the IgG and IgE are the top, but so it kind of escalates until it gets to the point where the immune response is resolved. IgG is the food sensitivities, and really kind of everything underneath would be food sensitivity, whereas a food allergy is only getting to that highest level. So like the green beret response of your immune system, it's that highest level of immune response. So if you have that irritation in your esophagus, it's all kind of combined in that same area. So reflux is affecting the same valve, so to speak, that same sphincter that's supposed to close, where the reflux would be happening and where the EOE would be happening, kind of all in that same area.
I had some crazy food sensitivities when I took that.
You did? I don't remember all of yours.
Cantaloupe is on my like do not eat forever list.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Not forever.
That was one of the not.
So for anything that we're talking immune. Well, let me rephrase that. Anything that we're talking about food sensitivities, your immune system is constantly changing. So it doesn't mean that it's a forever thing. Usually the food sensitivity test that I do comes in the like red light system. So it's red if you shouldn't eat it, yellow if it's moderate, and green if there's no immune response. So and there are levels of that. So the red would be things that we would eliminate for at least 6 months. So it's not forever.
So it was on my 6-month list. Yeah. It's just such a random thing to have a response to. It seems so benign.
That does answer my question, though, because cantaloupe wasn't on the list of my things. So yours is at least different.
Well, yeah. So, but there are lots and lots and lots of food sensitivity testing. There are lots of different companies that do it, and they all will test different things.
Gotcha.
But the thing about the food sensitivity test versus like Whole30. So Whole30 would be considered like the poor man's food sensitivity test because it's eliminating the things that are most likely going to cause issues. But you literally can be sensitive to vanilla, to black pepper. I mean, you can be sensitive to things that you would never be able to just remove like you do in the elimination phase of the Whole30.
Yeah, a lot of the foods that are on that list are healthy foods.
Right.
Like red bell pepper, broccoli, whatever.
Absolutely.
So it's also a very good test.
Did you eat cantaloupe before?
Surprisingly, yes.
And you just didn't know?
Well, I've had a lot of issues for a long time that I didn't know what was going on. So I probably was having
That's crazy.
immune response to it. But I've had it a few times since. And
yeah, you're probably in the clear now.
Inflammation be damned.
Well, and sometimes once you kind of tame down that inflammation, then your immune system can like recover, so to speak, and then it can do its job better. And so if there's any kind of inflammation that comes from I
was already highly inflamed at that point because of the gluten. Because oddly enough, my daughter, who has celiac, when I was pregnant with her, I started becoming sensitive to gluten. And I'd never noticed a reaction before until, I can't remember if I was pregnant or I had just had her, but I would get these rashes all over my hands and they would bleed.
Well, and your GI map showed that you were gluten sensitive too.
Yeah. So it all started with her. But that's a topic for a different episode because I think I know why.
There's so many topics.
It just builds on.
And
that's the thing. It's like an onion, really. Like you start peeling back and can really get to the root issues.
Yeah.
But back to the health revolution. Is that what you're calling it?
Yeah.
How can people get involved? How can people, like, is it a club that they join? Is there a
cult.
Group? It's a cult, so they have to do a ritual to get into it.
So, that's a good idea, though. We should really consider that.
I could be a cult leader for sure.
The ritual is do your food sensitivity test.
Yeah, exactly. We have to see your results. So It is a live panel series. We did the first one in the building where Daphne works. And this year we're going to be doing it inside Mercedes of Lafayette. It's just an event. They can buy tickets. It's on my website, actually, vividinfusionla.com, which that URL might be changing here pretty soon, hopefully, if I can get my ADD life together. But yeah, you just buy tickets to the event. We give you some food and you listen to the panelists in January, which actually I think this episode's going to be airing the week of.
Yeah, right around that time.
So we're going to have Dr. Jacob Bro, who is my gastroenterologist, and Rebecca Roy. She's an awesome functional GI nurse. And you.
Yeah.
And then I'll be moderating it as usual. And then thereafter, about every other month, we're going to just do a different topic and deep dive into some fun stuff.
Yeah. So those are the live events.
Yeah. It's not a club. It's not a cult. You can just come, invite
Everybody's
your friends.
welcome.
Yeah. You got to pay. But
yeah.
So basically, they could just follow like social media and
yeah.
we'll keep them updated on everything.
I'm obnoxiously sharing it, so you can't miss it. So I think the main theme of this is living vividly, and we're going to ask all of our guests, what does living vividly mean to you? So do you want to answer that?
Sure. I think it means making choices to support the true person that you are, like supporting who you are and not who others think you should be. Or I feel like we often get kind of guided into this expectation of who we're supposed to be based on our gender and our roles. And so I think living vividly means being true to yourself and allowing yourself to enjoy life based on who you are.
I love that. Mine's very similar. It's just doing what fills your cup and making, at least for me, when I feel like I'm living the most vividly, my house is clean, I've eaten well, I've had some water, just making small micro decisions that benefit future Jackie. Yeah. So I'm going to fold these clothes and put them away so that later this afternoon when I get home from work, they're not on my bed waiting for me. Just being kind to myself and taking care of my body and my soul.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Living Vividly. For more information about anything we covered in this episode, check out the show notes. If there are any topics that you'd like to learn more about, let us know in the comments. And we hope you continue to join us on our journey to living our happiest and healthiest life.